Throughout the history of mankind, as far back as the first ice age, there's been this lingering question that humanity has never been fully able to answer. Even great philosophers of the likes of Aristotle, Diogenes, and Socrates have been stumped by this question. Can men and women just be friends? Specifically, can Gen Z men and women just be friends? Ever since the great gender wars of the early 2020s, crazy that the year 2020 was 5 years ago, there was this sudden rise of men with mics on podcasts conversing about the dynamics of men and women in society. Now, that's just me sugarcoating it. To be quite frank, these podcasts were not constructive conversations to create meaningful dialogues in their online communities, but to simply put it, degrade and devalue women. This content exploded on social media and often pitted men and women against each other like it was a gang war, which led to every social dynamic between the two genders being heavily discussed and argued about. One of those discussions being about friendships between men and women. Can they even be friends to begin with? By and large, most women think that men and women can be just friends. The reason being that women view friendships different than men, and more often than not, their intentions are more platonic when befriending a man. Men, on the other hand, especially those who are chronically online, don't think men and women can be just friends. The reason being is a lot more, how do I say this? It is not as straightforward because men are experiencing a huge drought of genuine human interaction, which complicates everything. To be honest with you, a lot of young men just don't see any value of being just friends with a girl. To go a little further, there's a lot of young men out there who don't even like interacting with women and can't stand them. Those men tend to be the leading consumers of content that bashes women. In my personal opinion, I think men and women can have a platonic relationship. The problem that men run into when it comes to befriending women is their intentions with said friendship. A lot of men come into the situation with one goal in mind, a romantic relationship of some kind. And so the only reason why a lot of men end up befriending a woman in the first place is because they think that is a pathway, to simply put it, to sleep with a woman. Which raises another question. Can you be friends with someone that you're willing to sleep with? Now, that is the reason why I believe a lot of men think that guys can't be friends with women. This is why when dudes see women who have a guy best friend, or God forbid, a single friend of the opposite gender, as a huge red flag, because they think that the only reason that guy befriended her is because he wants to sleep with her. Why else would they be friends? Because for some reason men can only envision themselves interacting with women if it's for romantic purposes. Now, I hate to admit this, since I disagree with the overall assessment, that opinion isn't completely invalid. In a lot of cases, not all of them, but a lot of them, men are friends with women for one of these three reasons. They have known the girl since childhood, they want to hit, or they're unattracted to the girl in some way. It doesn't even have to be a physical attraction. If a guy only befriends a girl because he thinks it will lead to something romantic happening, not because he actually wants to be a friend to her, that's not a friend, that's a sleazeball and a clown. I actually used to be someone who thought you couldn't be friends with a girl if you wanted any type of romantic relationship with her at all. Whether it's just to sleep with her, a long-term relationship, or friends with benefits. Like, you can only be friends with a girl if she looked like Gorlak the Destroyer. Even that wouldn't stop some men from taking things further. Men are just huge gooners. So growing up, especially past the age of 15, I never really had friends. And no, please, it wasn't because I was some antisocial loser. A little bit. But because I was someone who just preferred to be alone. I'm not realizing that's what most single lonely people say. Anyways, so instead of having a lot of friendships as most people would have, I had a lot of close acquaintances, men and women. But for the sake of this video, I will refer to them as my friends. Anyways, my first friend that was of the opposite gender when I was older came from working at a local grocery store when I was 16. Here's the thing though, I only befriended her at work because I wanted something more than a friendship. At least that's what I told myself. It didn't end up that way. So one day, I obtained her number, and for 2 months, I text her constantly throughout the day. Every single day. Looking back on it, she probably saw me as an extremely annoying person. The only reason she probably responded to me was because I worked with her. I am so sorry if I did this to you. Eventually, I worked up enough courage to ask her on a date through text. No response. Keep in mind, she always responded to my messages no matter what I said. I could send her an emoji of a broccoli and she would respond saying that she hated VeggieTales. So I thought, okay, cool. So maybe she's busy or she just didn't see it. Delusional as hell. I pretended I didn't send a message and kept on pushing. So like 2 weeks later, I end up messaging her asking if she wanted to go bowling. She responds this time. I forget the reason why she said no, but she said maybe another time. It starts to click in my head that she might have no romantic interest in me. Once again, when I see her at work, I pretend I never sent those messages. She does too. Like 2 days later, we're having a conversation face to face at work. I notice she is tired, so I mention it to her. Do you want to know what she said? She said she was tired because she was up all night talking to her boyfriend, a boyfriend she never brought up in any conversation. Mentally, my jaw drops. Everything clicks together. She wasn't romantically interested in me because she was already romantically involved with someone else. So you would think that I would stop talking to her because why else would I be friends with a girl? Even though I stopped texting her constantly, I was still friends with her. Why? Because I realized I actually enjoyed spending time with her, conversing with her, laughing with her and at her. Even if nothing romantically blossomed between us, I was perfectly fine with that. I was fine just being friends with her. Most men are not, because they don't see the value of being friends with a woman. Like I mentioned earlier, when men interact with women, they don't see them as potential actual friends, or go into the interaction looking to be just friends. I personally believe, might be an unpopular take for those watching, even if you would be willing to sleep with a girl you're friends with if the right opportunity presented itself, that doesn't devalue the friendship. It doesn't mean men and women can't be friends. I only see it as a problem if that is the only and main reason why a guy befriends a girl. If there is no shot of a relationship progressing past a friendship, and that makes the guy stop talking to a girl, he wasn't a friend to begin with. If you're a guy who wants to be friends with the girl because you actually enjoy talking to her, have similar interests, and actually want to be her friend, and if nothing were to ever romantically happen, you'd be perfectly fine with that, then I think that's okay. Because the main reason why you're friends with her isn't because you want to sleep with her. It's not that complicated. Men are extremely horny creatures. I understand why men wouldn't want, for example, their girl to have any guy friends. Because, especially if they're single, there's a good chance that guy, if given the right opportunity, would sleep with her. If the girl looks good enough, every guy would want to sleep with her. Shoot, especially since a lot of Gen Z women swing both ways, a lot of women probably want to sleep with her too. I know that's not exactly encouraging for you to hear, but it's the truth. It's up to you to trust her, for her to set boundaries, for her to weed out the people whose intentions aren't in good faith. Young men nowadays are as lonely as ever, so not allowing yourself to be friends with half the population out of, to be honest, insecurities is quite silly. You need to start looking at women as actual people, not as an enemy, and certainly not as some object. This isn't like 1910. Anyways, that's it for me. I think men and women can be friends even if there is romantic feelings involved. To be quite frank with you, it's truly not that deep. Just be a good person, be a good friend, and hope that everything works out. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and adios.